Hey everybody, welcome back to Outplanet Studios. Today we're doing another episode of Battlefront 101, and this is the big one. We're doing Galactic Conquest today. I'm playing this on the original game because, Classic Collection's a hot mess, as I've said before. So in single player, this is not available on multiplayer in any iteration of this game, unfortunately. I believe it is possible to do it on split screen, which is pretty fun. But generally what you'll be doing is against AIs in this game mode. So in Galactic Conquest, you've got the 4 factions here. This is specifically for Battlefront 2. Battlefront 1's Galactic Conquest is significantly different. And a lot simpler. I might do another video on it later on, but this one's specifically about Battlefront 2. So you got the Rebellion, the Separatists, the Republic, and the Empire. I'm going to go into Separatists for the examples here. So, starts you off with one fleet. And now let me... there we go. Let me pull back out to kind of see the exact what this is. This is the galaxy map that you'll be playing on. So basically... those are all the planets. So it starts you off, you're a little bit behind when you start off, especially as Separatists or Rebels, I think. Might be all of them. But you start off with 3 planets, and we start off with quite a few. And your first, and really only objective here is to capture the entire galaxy's worth of planets. As you can see here, you have a fleet that is stationed on a random one of your own planets, depending on where it just randomly starts it at. You are able to get, the big thing I've noticed in my comment sections is people that did not know that you can get more than one fleet. Right out of the gate, you can actually buy one. So all you have to do is, generally when it starts off, you're already selected on a fleet like this. All you have to do is deselect that. On Xbox it's B. Go over to another one of your allied planets, and then hit A. And it takes 1,000. Each one that you buy costs more and more. The first one is 1,000 credits. Keeps going up above that as well. I think the next one's like 2,000 and 2,500, something like that. Goes up quite a bit, so you can't get a ton unless you just keep going and going and going. But you are able to get more than one fleet. The enemy also has a fleet. It's over here on Camino. And they're basically playing as if they're playing against you, so they can do all the same things you can do. So moving fleets around, you can only move, similar to board games and stuff like that, you can only move like one space over, and then it's their turn, and then you can go up, and then you can attack them if you can get to one on your turn. Like say I move here, and then they move, and then I can move up here and attack Dagobah. That would then immediately start into the land battle for Dagobah. If for some reason the enemy fleet is also there, like if I had spawned one here and then moved here, and then they moved onto this planet. If I attack a planet, any enemy planet, if it's like an enemy planet like this, or if it's just an empty space like this, if I match up onto a spot where an enemy fleet is, it'll start a space battle, which is kind of cool, but gets pretty repetitive, especially since the AI is very stupid, and that's probably the biggest thing here. The AI is not that good in Galactic Conquest. For the most part, I get stuck a lot of times where like I'm trying to take over these few planets right here, and they're just sending fleet after fleet after fleet out of Kashyyyk, and I destroy them and destroy them and destroy them. I get caught in like multiple space battles at a time. It's not fun. There was one Galactic Conquest I did recently where I ended up doing like 10 Camino battles because I couldn't stop their fleets fast enough because I was trying to like take Kashyyyk or something like that from over here. It was a mess. So yeah, so definitely be careful with that. If you like doing the same battle over and over again, this is your favorite thing right here. For the most part, that's not going to happen. It'll mostly end up just being a lot of space battles that you do. Yeah, there's not a whole lot there. For the... Let me see here. X, skip there. So, as you can see there's not a whole lot in the... What is that? Northwest of the map there. There's not a whole lot there on Clone Wars, because on Galactic Civil War, they fill those 2 extra spots over there with Hoth and Endor. which are not available on Clone Wars. And similarly to this, or to that with the Clone Wars as well, Geonosis is not on the Galactic Civil War version. Camino is for some reason, but Geonosis is not. Just kind of mixes it up, makes it a slightly different for each faction, for each era. But just be aware of that. There's a good way to go from, like, if you capture this side of the planet or the galaxy, and just kind of zip over here to Coruscant. Takes a couple of turns, but it works. But in the Galactic Civil War version of this, you go from Polis Massa up to Hoth, and then up to Endor, and then over to Coruscant. Which reminds me, let me actually check on that. There might not actually be a bridge over onto that side. Let me try that. So spawning in as rebels, once again, same things. It's different random planets. Here, let me check how many planets it is. Yeah, it always gives you 3 random planets, and then has your fleet spawn on a random one of those planets. But so yeah, you go over here from Polis Massa as one more thing here, up to Hoth, and then loops back around to Mustafar. So there's no bridge up to Coruscant in Galactic Civil War, so it's just a crescent. So just so you're aware, it is a little bit different. All right, so next thing, so that's basically how the layout of the board, how the fleets work. You can get multiple fleets. Your fleets can move once per turn, and all you have to do to move a different one is just deselect that fleet and then move to another one, select it, and then do your turn. So that is part 1. All right, so part 2 is what else to do during your turn. So you see you have 1,000 credits up there, so I only have 1 fleet. The bonuses are little game modifiers that you can add to your team going into a battle. So I usually like having a couple of these in my back pocket just in case they attack me on a random planet or something like that. That way I can have a little bit of an upper hand. So say, since my fleet is on Dagobah right now, say they sneak over here and attack Hoth. That way I'll have like a bonus just ready to go there, because you can only buy these on your turn. So I'm just going to run through all of these. Energy boost causes your unit's energy gauge to replenish faster after being depleted. This one is pretty useless, honestly. It's the cheapest one as well. Well, it's not the cheapest, but it's the first one here. This is only effective for player units. And it's very simple why. The energy boost, it's those little stamina bar you have while you're like sprinting or jumping or something like that. The only people that have that are the players. The AIs don't have that. They can sprint and jump all they want. So giving your AIs an energy boost basically is worthless. This is only effective if you put it onto your team. It's only effective for you personally. Which honestly, I very, very rarely have an issue of not enough stamina. So just so you're aware on that one, I don't ever use this one. Supplies, same thing. The only situation where supplies come into play is for player units. The AIs, I've seen AIs just huck grenades over and over and over and over again, and they never run out, as if they had this anyway. So, you know, if you want extra supplies, extra grenades or something like that going into a battle, get this one. It's not going to help your AIs at all. That's the biggest thing for this as well. I should mention as well. And we'll get into this more when we test out a land battle or something like that. The biggest thing for Galactic Conquest, and making sure, and this goes for all Battlefront battles, is making sure that your AIs can win the battle. You can win. If you're good at the game, you can probably win the battle yourself, but you can't control the entire map when there's an army of like 50 clone troopers coming at you as a droid. And all your AIs are dead, and you're the only one there. You're eventually going to get killed. They're eventually going to capture all the command posts. You know, unless you're really, really good, which sometimes happens. But there's some maps where you really cannot do that at all. So what that turns into, basically, is for Galactic Conquest especially, but for all of them, it's making sure that you're kind of shepherding your AIs into certain spots of the map. Like, they'll go off and do whatever they want. But you have to be able to give them the bonuses and the troop unit, or the unit types, to be able to take a battlefield effectively and hold it while you run around and knock out hotspots for them. You know, because they're pretty bad at fighting. You just need them to be there, pretty much. So, in saying that, the bonuses are great. So what I don't typically use these first two ever, simply because they only affect myself. I do great with the basic loadout. I've trained myself over the years to like actually be able to kill with every single weapon, to be able to find like all the ammo droids all over the place, the health droids, everything I need to be able to keep myself alive and fighting. The AIs can't do that. So giving myself extra supplies or energy boost, you can do it, but it's really just a waste of credits and time at that point. Because yeah, at the end of the day, you're just making sure that your guys are there long enough so that you can knock out the enemies for them, pretty much. So continuing on, garrison. This is one of my bread and butter ones. This is the first one where it like actually affects your army instead of just you. The garrison adds extra troops to your reinforcement bank if it drops too low. So basically, if you're in a battle and your reinforcement number up there gets down to, I think it's 30, it will jump up another 30, 40, or 50, something like that. I might test this one actually here in a little bit. So basically, this one, if you're losing, and this one I'll typically go into. I'll use this one typically like if I'm going into like Dagobah, which I'm not super confident on the ground battle for that one. If I know that I'm not super confident on like Dagobah, Felucia, Yavin 4, you know, maybe Megiddo, something like that. The ones that I know that I'm good at but not great at, I'll usually select the garrison bonus so that I can get an extra 30, 40, 50 or troops for 50 troops, something like that. I'll have to like double check on the number when we go into a battle here in a little bit. But that just gives you a little bit extra time to get more enemy kills, to knock their team down, and really just it gives you extra time to win the battle if you're not super confident winning it in the normal period of time. The thing to remember, though, is the enemy team can also use any of these bonuses. So they're not usually very smart with it, but this is one that they use a lot. So just being able to kind of predict when they're going to do it is pretty tough, but sometimes going into a battle, they'll use either this one or back to tanks or something like that. You know, I just want to make sure that yours is helping your team, but also countering them a little bit as well. So just to keep that in mind. I'll test that one a little bit later. Auto turrets is the next one. Automatically reinforces your command post with defense grid turrets. If you guys know the secondary weapon for the sniper class, it is a auto turret, little floating ball thing you put down and it can kind of shoot. This is all that is. All it does is when you capture a command post, it puts one of those on the command post. It can be good. This one obviously it helps you with zone control. The only one that I'll like really do this one on is if the map is like really flat, like Naboo. I've done this one on Dagobah as well, just ones that I'm not able to cover all the command posts very well. This way it just gives it. The AIs are usually pretty smart about this one. They'll just lob grenades in, blow it up, and run and capture the command post anyway. But just gives you that little extra time, just like the garrison one, to be able to get in there and actually turn the tide. I'm not a huge fan of this one. It helps sometimes. Just it's very situational, but just make sure you know like what the command posts look like in that map, and if an auto turret would be able to cover that thing. Like if there's like significant incline or decline, I wouldn't do it at all. Like Yavin 4 is an example of that. But if it's like Naboo or Coruscant, where all the command posts are in rooms that are very flat, easy sight lines, it can help. The next one is another amazing team building one. Back to tanks. Causes the health of all your units to automatically regenerate at a constant rate. This one is just basically health regen for your guys. I love this one. I don't know why I don't use this one as much, but basically, if you're an enemy, if one of your guys takes damage, it will immediately just start regenerating it. Similar to what the pilot does to the starfighters in space. It's useful. I'll usually do this one like on Geonosis or something like that. One where it's very wide open. People are taking a lot of damage a lot, but then there's also a lot of time for your guys to be just kind of running towards the objective. That gives them time to regenerate their health, kind of get their health up in time to be able to actually do the thing. Hoth is another good one for that. Up next is kind of a similar thing, but not quite as good as Back to Tanks. It's combat shielding, gives your units an extra reserve of health upon entering the battlefield. Basically, when you do this one and you look at your health bar, the bar's there, but then there's just a little chunk of it that's like glowing or something like that. Basically, what that is extra health that's on top of your normal health bar and allows you to take a little bit more damage. It's not my favorite one. I mean, if it goes for the same situations as Back to Tanks, wide open areas where you're taking a lot of damage. I wouldn't really do either one of these in like a Polis Massa kind of situation where it's very CQB, like very close quarters kind of stuff. Because in those situations, they're taking more damage than these things can actually regenerate or protect against. So, it's up to you. I prefer this one just because it's continuous regeneration, and this one's just a tiny bit of extra health at the beginning of the life. But it's up to you. Up next is Sabotage. This one is very situational. It doesn't do anything for your team. But unlike the first two bonuses here, this one actually, it's really the only one that like directly affects the enemy team. So this one, Sabotage, causes all enemy vehicles to suffer damage upon spawning in. This is really good for space battles and battles like Geonosis or Kashyyyk, ones that have lots of vehicles on the map already anyway. If you know that and this honestly, the game might even help you with this actually. Some of the maps don't even have vehicles, and this will just be grayed out, I think. But it helps to know the battlefield before you go in. So like going in instant action or something like that and testing out the battlefield, kind of see where all the tanks and vehicles spawn, and seeing which teams have what, and then go into this and then see like, hey, Sabotage, all the like, if you're playing as like the Republic on Kashyyyk or something like that, like the Separatists have snail tanks and staff speeders all over the place on the other side of the water. What I want to do is use this as Republic to damage all of those vehicles, have them like smoking already before they even get it over to my guys. And that way my guys can like wipe out their vehicles and just take the field really easy. That's the kind of situation you want to use this in. Or in like space battles too. Like it doesn't affect the ones that kind of just spawn off the map and come in. Those ones are usually at full health, I think. But the ones that are actually like spawning and going out of the hangar bays, those ones are actually like pretty much dead already and get destroyed by your anti-air guns very, very quickly. So this one's really good, very situational, but yes, they're getting more expensive as we go along this list as well. Enhanced blasters, honestly, I don't really know why this one's all the way up here. It's pretty good. I mean, all it does is amplifies the damage of all blaster type weapons for your team. So all your AIs, if they have a blaster, something like that, does a little bit more damage, which can be good. I mean, it's kind of if you have enemies that are like, if you have this one like in your back pocket or something like that, and it's an enemy team or something, they're attacking you and they have like combat shielding or Back to Tanks or something like that. Okay, enemy AIs have more health. What's the best way to counter that? Either give myself and my allies more health, or give my guys more damage output to be able to counter that and bring it back down to what basically would be a normal battle. It's a good one. Not one that I use super often, but it definitely helps your guys quite a bit. And we'll get more into why I specifically use this one for early battles in the map, or in the Galactic Conquest, just because The standard guy that you start with has a blaster. That's the biggest thing. So we'll get into that once we get to the unit section. Then the final one over here is leader, and this one definitely takes some extra know-it-all, I guess. If you know specifically the maps, and this I was playing recently the Battlefront like Saga Edition mod. Like this changes like with mods and stuff, but with the base vanilla game, knowing which teams on which maps have what leaders is infinitely useful. Like for instance, I know that on Megiddo as Separatists, their leader is General Grievous, and he's terrible. So I will not use the leader bonus as Separatists on Megiddo. But I do know that as Separatists on Naboo, I get Darth Maul, which is really, really good. So I'll use the leader on that one. So it's definitely useful to like go in, and it's consistent through the entire game, so like instant action or something like that. If you go into a thing and it gives you a leader as a faction, it's going to be the same leader that that faction will get on that map in Galactic Conquest. So definitely take a look at that, memorize what's where, and yeah. This one I won't use it on every map. Like I said, General Grievous sucks. I'm not a fan of Yoda. Honestly, I don't really use Leia or Han Solo or Boba Fett at all. Jango Fett's pretty good because he's got like the enhanced blaster. Yeah, Ki-Adi-Mundi kind of sucks. You know, so a lot of them, like, you know, Darth Vader's decent. Darth Maul's really good. Anakin's kind of okay, you know. So just knowing which one is on which map before you go into the battle with this thing is definitely necessary, because it's expensive and could really turn the battle for you. Because when you use this one, instead of like instant action where you have to get like 10 points or whatever, and then you'll get like yes or no or to use it or something like that, it gives you that yes or no option out of the gate. So, you know, it can be useful as long as you know what you're doing. If you're good with a certain hero or something like that, that I mentioned is not that great. If you're good with it, great. You know, just know which maps are going to use that one and go for it. Yeah, it's pretty fun. The next section is the unit section. So when you're on your turn and you're going around, you don't really know what to do. Definitely check out the units. The one that everybody starts off with is the basic trooper. So for Rebels, it's the Rebel Trooper. For Empire, it's the standard Stormtrooper. For Republic, it's the standard Clone Trooper. And then for the Battle Droids, it's the Super Battle Droid. They all have pretty similar loadouts. And this one is kind of different for the descriptions on them are kind of cool too as well. So yeah, I'll go through all of these real quick for each faction, and then it's kind of what they're used for as well. Rebel Soldier. We kind of went over these also with the unit types video, one or two videos ago for the Battlefront 101 series, so definitely check that out. The Rebel Soldier is the one you start off with. You start off, actually, in Galactic Conquest, you start off with two units to use. On ground battles, it's just this one, the Rebel Trooper. But then in space, you also get the pilot. So it says space only down there. Aggressive dogfighters whose flight abilities make them the pride of the Alliance. So yeah, there's two different kinds of units you can get in this. It's the ground-based ones, which are your normal, like, instant action guys. And then there's these two, which are for space only. The Rebel Marine is... It's okay. You guys know my opinion on that. I'll get to that in a moment. But all right, so yeah, for the basic one, like I was talking about with the enhanced blasters one, the only guy, as soon as you spawn into the Galactic Conquest in your first battle, before you buy any more units or anything like that, instead of being like instant action where you can choose out of any of these, it only has this one as the option. And this is where people go wrong a little bit, in my opinion. The very beginning, and for the most part, most of the maps in this are winnable pretty much easily, I guess, by just your standard unit, like the Rebel Trooper, the Super Battle Droids, you know, Stormtrooper, etc. It's got just a standard blaster rifle, which is good. It's short, medium, not long range, but that's not really a thing in this game. So short to medium range, it's good. Grenades are great. It's just a really good overall soldier, and if your entire army is these guys, it's great. You know, as soon as you buy one of these, a bunch of your AIs are just going to randomly spawn in as one of these, and it takes away from that general all-purpose unit. You know, so if you go into like a Mustafar or something like that, I would rather have, you know, an entire army of rebel soldiers rather than a bunch of rebel soldiers and one of these guys, because there's no vehicles on that map. You know, so at the beginning of the game, if you can get to the point where you're knocking out a whole bunch of different planets that you know are winnable like this, and technically they all are, but some of them are easier than others. You know, I stick with this guy for most of the map, or most of the match with the AI enemies. Just because it's a good all-purpose soldier. I know exactly what my guys are doing, what the AI kind of behaves like, and where they're going. Eventually, like before going into like Hoth or Geonosis, I'm trying to think if there's any others. That's really it. But yeah, before going into like Hoth or Geonosis, where there's a lot of vehicles, I'll usually buy this one. Sometimes, not always. Rocket launchers, mines, grenades. It's great against all the vehicles. So if you're kind of done with most of the maps that have just no vehicles, or they're winnable with the standard guy, you know, you could get this one, and then it'll help your AIs be able to take on vehicles a lot easier. And again, you can develop your own strategy. I'm just explaining the way that I usually play these games. The biggest way that I usually do this, like the biggest strategy that I'll usually use, is I'll typically, like say I spawn in like right here, I'll go through all of these, and then like if I hit Hoth or something like that, I'll get like the heavy trooper or something like that. So that way I have an answer to the AT-ATs, AT-STs, turrets, that kind of stuff. But if I spawn in here and I start moving back this way, same thing for Geonosis right here on the Clone Wars one. Tatooine is really good if you just have normal standard units. Love that map, but you really don't need rocket launchers for it. Kashyyyk is the biggest one that I will actually buy the next unit, which is the Sniper for. There is a lot of spots on the platforms in the middle of the map that AIs will typically just kind of post up on with sniper rifles and just start picking people off. It's really useful, but if you don't have your snipers, they don't do that. So just knowing the map, kind of knowing the AI behavior on each of the maps is very useful. Like Dagobah, over here, I know there's a specific spot over by Yoda's hut that the heavy trooper will lay a couple of mines. The engineer will lay like a det pack or something like that and blow himself up. You know, so generally, you know, this definitely got put up a lot more into the Saga Edition mod, but we're not talking about that today. The biggest thing that I do in these maps is kind of watch the AIs as you're playing through it. Just kind of see what they do, where they go, the kind of battle tactics that they do. Certain specific, like I was saying, certain specific units will like do specific things, like lay mines in one area of the map or something like that. This is a huge case for Battlefront 1, where there were like certain spots, especially in like Dune Sea and Renvar Harbor, where they would put out an entire field of mines and then just kind of keep moving on. And so anytime anybody would come into those areas, it would just explode. There's a couple very small parts of this game that do that. But yeah, Dagobah is the only one I can think of off the top of my head, but they do it in various places. So knowing what those places are before you go into the battle, and like, hey, I know this guy's going to be placing a mine at this one spot on Dagobah. Let me grab it before he gets, before we go into Dagobah or something like that. It's the same thing with this for Kashyyyk. Lots of sniper spots. They'll jump in there and do that thing, and then you'll just have these for the rest of the game. Rebel Smuggler is pretty much the only one. I mean, really, the engineer in general is really the only one that I don't do off the top of my head. For, I'll usually grab it like before like the last battle or something like that, just to have the full army. But I don't know. I talked with somebody in the comments section a couple of weeks ago about this. Rebel Smuggler, the shotgun's fun if I'm using it. The AIs are not good at it. They don't use the det packs correctly. For the most part, all I see for rebel smugglers is them putting down random health packs, picking them up themselves, or just running around the map with, fusion cutters and getting themselves shot. So they're good in some cases. They're not like the other ones where they have like specific things that they do in the map. But, I'll typically not get this one just because they're running around doing nothing or getting shot. The wild card ones, the Bothan Spy is pretty good. Especially for like close quarters maps like Mustafar or Polis Massa. Because his weapon is very short range, but it kills them very quickly. Here, let me jump into the other factions as well. Jump into this kind of Republic. It's the same thing with this, same bonuses. Heavy Trooper, Sniper, Engineer. Clone Commander it's a good one. I'll usually buy this one before I go into Naboo just because he's very... it can kill an enemy very quickly, but he's not a very smart AI. Like once he sees an enemy, he'll shoot him, get the kill, but he's usually just kind of running around. So this guy, it's very expensive to get it for the commander, the whatever the class is for all the other ones. It's okay. If I have a bunch of extra credits, I might do it, but it's not going to do a whole lot for you on the maps. Jet Trooper or Dark Trooper or something like that, very good. Sometimes. I'll usually get these guys before I go into larger maps, or like the Jet Trooper here, and for the Republic in particular, is pretty good with like Mos Eisley because he can jump up over the buildings. The AIs actually do it. They'll jump up over the buildings, get shots with the rocket launcher. It usually works out. But yeah, like Magna Guard, Wookiee Warrior, pretty useless. Clone Pilot is my favorite for space battles, just because anytime that you are in a vehicle with one of these things, it just auto regens the vehicle. And I realized recently that the Technician Award, if you get it up to the point where you just consistently have the reward, it just gives all of the characters this ability. So if you have that ability, maybe use the Clone Marine. But then again, your AIs don't have that ability as that. So similar to what you do at the very beginning of the Galactic Conquest, this unit specifically is very useful because all of your allies also have that regen ability. If you do this unit is very good for boarding ships. He's got an assault rifle and a rocket launcher. He's good for boarding ships and doing some damage. But your AIs never ever board ships unless you take them there in the landing craft. So I usually keep them as this. It's a little less damage output from me personally, but my team at least is not getting killed because their vehicles aren't recharging like they should be with this one. So that's my theory for space battles. And yeah, I think it's like the 9th time I've had to say that. But all right, so the next part that I'm going to do is I'm going to test out the garrison one. Just to kind of figure out for sure what the numbers were at the beginning there, and should just show you what attacking a planet looks like. So, looks like Tatooine. This would be a good practice one, actually. Tatooine, I like going into it with standard troopers, but there are several points on it where there are sniper points. I don't have enough enough credits to get it right now, but if you are going into Tatooine like halfway through the battle or something, halfway through the match, pick up the sniper. There's some good spots, and I'll show you in the battle actually, but up on top of the arena, over on the back command post, over on the other corner command post. I'll just go into the thing here and actually show you, but so you're invading the planet. There's no enemy fleet on it, so it's just a ground battle. If you win the battle, you would then get that planet. I'm going to select garrison. And since they haven't had a turn, they haven't had a chance to buy any bonuses. So this is a good opening thing for us. So we have standard guys. So sniper, if you were to get the sniper, They have posts right here. I've seen 2 of them stack up right there. I've seen guys stack up right here. Kind of go over to the other side as well. Show you off those ones. If I survive. So every battle in this starts off with 150 guys, just like instant action. It's a lot different from the original Battlefront, where it starts off with 200 or 250, depending on the map. Oh no! So in like what I was talking about at the very beginning, just knowing what your AIs are working on at any given time is a really good thing. I know in this case for this map, most of them are pushing to capture this area over here with these turrets, kind of up there, and about 90% of your forces are always pushing down this hallway right here, and then a couple of random guys over here. That changes depending on what command posts get captured throughout the battle, but just knowing where your guys are going at any given time, like you can just bring up the map and kind of see it there as well. And if you see a whole bunch of enemies like pushing on one spot, or your allies are getting crushed in one area and you can tell, definitely jump over there, and because most of the time your intervention for that kind of stuff will fix the situation. Because there's a lot of times where your AIs will just kind of get crushed by something, and you know, it would just be easy for you to fight through it. We might lose this battle actually, but I do have a garrison. Let me capture this real quick. It takes a while for your AIs to get over to these command posts, so if you can spawn into this area and have your guys hitting the enemy command posts from a different angle, that's definitely the way to do it. I'm planning on doing another video at some point about like map control and crowd control kind of stuff for this game. So another sniper point, if you were to have the sniper unit up here, is 1 to 2 guys will always post up right here as long as you own this command post. So if you do have that unit available, your AIs will kind of post up right here. They will also jump up right on the corner of that vehicle, or that building right there. I've seen all of these posts have like 1 to 2 people usually stacked up on them. Yeah. There's also a bunch of turrets all throughout the map. Those ones are highly contested over there, generally. There's another one back there. There we go. There's another turret over there, and that's that kind of that hallway that I was talking about that they just kind of always push down. Snipers also usually post up like right next to that turret as well. Oh, did we do the garrison? It might only give you like 20 or 30, but it pushes you back up over 50, depending on where you're at. I'll have to see if it gave it to us already. I wasn't paying attention. See, like in this case, I can do a lot of damage as this guy. You know, but eventually I'm going to take too much damage and get killed. Eventually they're going to capture all the command posts.